Alright guys, a quick update regarding the Electro Voltaic grenade build with the Mercenary. I'm currently in a T15 map, level 79. I think it might have multiple breaches. I just did two. The reason for this update is I just discovered that there's a unique helm that actually makes this build even more crazy. I'd even say broken, sorta. It reminds me of the Monk freeze build that people are running right now that is probably going to get nerfed eventually. So yeah, basically this helm here, I'm just going to remove my overlay so I can see it. The 3 dragons, solid mask, it makes your fire damage from hits contribute to shock chance instead of ignite chance, and same with the other 2 elements, so cold damage from hits contributes to ignite chance and magnitude instead of chill, and then lightning damage from hits contributes to freeze buildup instead of shock chance. So it's an interesting interaction. I'm still testing it out right now, but I find it really intriguing because basically what we've got here is we've got a whole lot of lightning damage going on, and we've got shock and electrocute going on as well with our passive skill tree, and so instead of just proccing electrocutes and shock, we're also now proccing a bunch of freeze, which is amazing because out of the 3 heralds, Herald of Ash, Herald of Ice, and then Herald of Thunder, Herald of Ice is probably the best because of the way it works. In Path of Exile 1, the heralds used to pretty much all be about explosions. Whenever you would kill an enemy, it would proc multiple explosions and it would help with clearing. In Path of Exile 2, they changed it to where Herald of Ash does an explosion as well, but based on your overkill damage, and it's an ignite. It's not just an explosion, it's also an ignite, so that means the damage is not instant. It happens over a little bit of time. And Herald of Thunder, instead of being an explosion this time around, or like lightning bolts around you, it's your next consecutive 3 to 5 attacks that get boosted by Herald of Thunder. So it's not exactly the same result, whereas Herald of Ice is a lot like in Path of Exile 1, where if you kill frozen enemies and you shatter them, you will proc the explosion from Herald of Ice, and that is a multiplicative effect, because once the first enemy explodes, if the next enemy is still frozen and he gets shattered by that first explosion, you can imagine it creates a chain reaction where you can get a whole screen of explosions from the freezes going on, and it's just insane. It's super efficient at clearing. So right now I'm testing, and the conclusion of my evening's testing, obviously I'm not done. I have to play around with links and support gems and possibly get more links for some of those skills here. So I'm testing a whole bunch of things here, but in a very summarized way, let's say this. Voltaic grenade with this helmet we're talking about right now makes a really big clearing solution. What happens is it's causing huge explosions, so it's much more efficient than it was, because prior to that helmet being worn, Voltaic grenade would cause electrocutes and shocks, which it still does. I suppose it's not supposed to, but it still does. But now the lightning damage from Voltaic grenade contributes to building freeze on enemies instead of just shock and electrocute. Now, what I noticed is when I use Voltaic grenade, despite this change from the helmet here, I still shock and electrocute with it. I don't know why. I suppose it might be because I've got some fire damage in here, because with that helmet, fire damage now builds shock and electrocute. Well, not shock and electrocute, just shock. But somehow Voltaic grenade still, not as often, but it still shocks and electrocutes enemies quite often. So that's surprising, and it's very good. So that's the first result of the evening's testing. The second discovery that I've made with this thing here is that it seems to be that the rare enemies and the tougher enemies require a bit more fiddling around to kill them, because the Voltaic grenade clears pretty much everything around easily except for the rare enemies, and since it doesn't build up electrocute and shock as often or as fast, it's a bit tricky to kill the rare enemies now, so I have to play around with this. One of the solutions I've found is using explosive shot, because it's fire based and it's a big AoE. It makes the rare packs shocked, which makes it easier for me to land the freezes on them, because if they're shocked, they take more damage taken, or more lightning damage taken builds more freeze. So that's one thing. The other thing I noticed is, since Voltaic Grenade still shocks and electrocutes, I can also continue to use shock burst rounds. So I've been trying to test whether I prefer using fragmentation rounds to shock them and then continue using Voltaic Grenade, or if I prefer using Voltaic Grenades and shock burst rounds. I also tested a little bit with fragmentation rounds. I have it in here, I think, but it wasn't very conclusive, because most of the enemies die too soon. I don't have that many enemies to shoot at with fragmentation rounds. Where's fragmentation rounds? I think I put it away, did I? Yeah. No? It should still be in there. I'm just going to try and find it. Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. So fragmentation rounds, when they hit frozen enemies, it does a ton of damage, right? So I've been thinking, oh, I'm going to use this after freezing people with Voltaic Grenade. But the thing is, they die too quickly. I don't have time to really... There's not that often a big rare enemy frozen that I can target with this, so it's kind of useless. I'm probably going to remove this. So yeah, I need to just find a solution to freeze rare enemies a bit more efficiently, faster than I do the regular mobs or the magic mobs with this change here. But it's quite amazing, because in breaches I notice now that I'm clearing the multitude of enemies much faster. So probably the solution is going to be Voltaic plus shock burst rounds, or maybe Voltaic plus explosive shots to just get the procs to go off. So I have a little bit of research to do here, but I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. So take a look. So now they get frozen and they shatter, and the Herald of Ice spreads it around.
All in a day's work.
It's amazing. But it needs some optimization. Oh, and by the way, before I keep fighting, and you guys look at what it... Well, there's a bunch of breaches. It's nice. So before I fight the breach here, I just want to tell you that since I've made these changes, I haven't tweaked it to perfection. I haven't spent the currency to balance my resistances. I just put the helm in. I put a ring here just to have enough intelligence to be able to use Herald of Ice, because it requires a bit more intelligence. 66 intelligence. I was running 50 to 55 intelligence. So put in a ring, put in the helmet. I'm just going to kill this guy before he kills me. And because of this, if you look at my stats now, I'm lacking a bit of lightning damage here. I'm even undercapped, so that's not good. I'm supposed to be at 80 minimum. So cold and fire is fine. Chaos is also lower. I was at 74, so these two stats are unacceptable. I need to correct them by just buying gear or whatever. It's going to be an easy fix. It's just that right now I wasn't interested in having the perfect resistances to survive enemies or whatever. I just wanted to test to see what's the damage like, what's the synergies like, do I freeze often or not enough. I'm just going to show you the links real quick I put in on Voltaic Grenade. So same as before, except I put in glaciation here instead of ingenuity, so that I can freeze more often enemies. I noticed that it helps build the freeze up even faster. Now, I haven't touched the passive skill tree at all. I suspect I could probably go and get some freeze build-up nodes to help with the build. I'm thinking of keeping the lightning nodes, because they still contribute to the damage and they still help. Because basically what you have to understand with this helmet is it does not transform your lightning damage into cold damage. It just makes your lightning damage build freeze ailment instead of lightning ailments. So yeah, so that's why removing the lightning damage is not a good idea. But some of those nodes, like this one here, might be less useful now, because this says 50% increase electrocute buildup against shocked enemies, and vice versa, increased shock chance against electrocuted enemies. But now we don't electrocute and shock as often, especially if we use Voltaic Grenade over and over for clearing. So I might have to revisit this area here, but still like the lightning damage, so that's fine. I don't have the shock spreading here. I might need to put it back in, but yeah. So, and these two, well, obviously this is good, because these two still synergize with that helmet we just looked at, right? So this here penetrates lightning resistant, increases chance to shock, that's fine. The other here, lightning damage with non-critical hits is lucky, so that still contributes to higher chances of building freeze. So these synergize well with the new helm, but I might have to revisit just to see, are there interesting freeze nodes that I could go for. I spotted one at the top here which looked very promising. I'm just going to find it. I think it's over here. That is one of them. 28% increased freeze buildup. Hits ignore non-negative element resistances of frozen enemies. So that might be one, but it's not the one I had in mind. I think this is the one. Yeah, increased freeze buildup. 50% increased damage with hits against frozen enemies. So I'm thinking this is good because whenever they get frozen by the Voltaic grenade, the explosion from Herald of Ice is going to have more damage and more chances of shattering the next enemy and creating the chain reaction we're looking for. But I think there was a better one. Okay, it might be this one. Yeah, that's another one. It's cool too. 40% increased freeze buildup, but also freeze duration on enemies. But I don't think that's the one. Where's the one I saw earlier? Anyhow, I'll come back to you guys with the freeze buildup node that I had found that seemed interesting. But yeah, I'm gonna have to just tweak around, look and see if there are better things I can do. But from what you will see here in the breach, you'll see that the Voltaic grenade clears a lot more efficiently now that it builds freeze. But pay attention to those rare packs, the yellow mobs. You'll see that they don't get electrocuted and shocked as often as they used to, because obviously now Voltaic grenade builds freeze instead of shock and electrocute. But despite this being the case, it still builds up electrocute and shock, which I guess it's not supposed to do, but maybe, like I said, because of a little bit of remaining damage I have, elemental damage from, you know, attacks, stuff on my rings or whatever. Because there's a little bit of fire damage here, right? So that might be the contributing factor to shock, but it still builds electrocute, which I was surprised. I thought it wouldn't. So let's fight this breach and pay attention to the rare mobs. Very likely that I would die, possibly. I did 3 breaches up to now without dying, but it's a big possibility considering the fact that my resistances are all over the place, and I've also lost quite a bit of life by putting on that helmet. I was at 2700, now I'm at 24 approximately. So yeah, I don't expect to survive everything in this map, but I just want to show you guys what this looks like. And I also have a little bit less mana, so that's not good either, but it's all stuff I'm going to fix if I find that I like this Voltaic freeze build-up thing. Okay, here goes. See? Explosions across the screen. That's really good. So that's insane clearing right now. Much more than it was before. So I like that. Yeah.
One down. Who's next?
There you go. So as you can see, I'm struggling a little bit against the yellow mobs, whereas before that was not the case because I could just electrocute them and then unload with shock burst rounds. I can still do that, but I'm building the shock condition and electrocute slower with Voltaic grenade. So maybe one of the solutions would be to just swap to where is it? Explosive shot whenever I see those rare guys and I need to take them down. If they don't get taken out by the Voltaic grenade chain reaction that we've seen on the screen here, then maybe explosive shot can take care of shocking them enough so I can proceed to freezing them with shock burst rounds. It sounds so weird. It's like an upside down world. Because using this helmet now, it makes you think like upside down. Because shock burst rounds in my mind was like a huge, lightning attack speed thing, and now it builds up freeze as well. So that's really interesting. You haven't seen this in action much because I haven't used it during the breach much, but I suppose against bosses it's going to be very interesting because now what I can do, I even forgot to use my mark, but what I can do now is in boss fights or with tough rare packs, I can mark them with Voltaic mark, okay? As soon as that is done, I can shoot Voltaic grenades and still build a little bit of a shock and electrocute despite it being lesser now. Or I can use explosive shot to really nail that electric element onto them. And as soon as that is done, I can swap over to shock burst rounds, which is going to unleash a lot of damage like before, but it will also build freeze onto the boss, which is amazing because now we're basically saying we shock the boss with explosive shot or possibly Voltaic grenade as well. We mark him before, and once that is done, we shoot shock burst rounds onto him, and that freezes him eventually. And then as the boss is frozen, I'm free to continue cycling through Voltaic mark, explosive shot, and more shock burst rounds. So it's like maybe there's a way of chaining both CC conditions on the bosses. So maybe like electrocute followed by freeze. That'd be amazing. So yeah, I need to do further testing, but as you can see, this is very intriguing because when I do land the chain reaction, it's not all the time. That it depends on the density of the monsters and how closely together they are. So when they're close together and there's a whole bunch of them and they're all grouped, what I mean is different groups, like a group here, group here, group here, well, it's going to do a huge chain reaction and clear the whole screen pretty much. In a lot of ways, that is similar to what you see with the monks build and other stuff people have been running. The realm is about to restart, so I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to try and clear the rest of the map just in case there are more breaches in here. There might be a whole bunch. I think I've seen at least 4 up to now. So there might be more. This is great. I love this freeze thing going on right now. 34 monsters left. Yeah, maybe no. It's kind of weird though. Because with the passive skill tree thing in the Atlas, when you have a certain number of breaches, it means you have at least 10. But maybe I haven't met the criteria yet. I'll have to look at it. Sorry about my voice. It's late. It's a bit raspy. Map complete. Okay, yes, I killed all the rares. So yeah, I'm just going to look at that spot here just in case there's another breach. But this map is pretty much done, so I'll get there. And if I don't find another breach to show you guys, I will stop the video here for now. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys what the results were of this new helmet because it's quite interesting. I just have to make sure that it's also very good with tougher enemies, because if it only clears the trash better than it used to, but does not help me with rare or bosses, then might not be all that good. But I think it's a question of tweaking things. I'll figure it out. Okay, almost there. Maybe not. Nope. There are no more breaches, I believe. Yeah. Well, thanks for watching. If you have questions or comments, leave them in the comments section. Hopefully this will lead to something great for the build, because I'm thinking this is amazing for clearing breaches. I just need to figure out like how to take care of the rares and the bosses a bit better now that the elemental elements are all inverted. So there you go. Have a good evening, guys. Hopefully you are having fun as much as I am with the Mercenary.